Directors Anthony and Joe Russo were given a nearly impossible task. Make a Captain America sequel that's also an Avengers sequel, satisfy the comic book fans while also satisfying the casual moviegoers who want to see action films, while also setting the seeds for future Marvel Cinematic Universe movies, introducing Spider-Man to the MCU, and most important of all, avoid the pitfalls that Batman v Superman had as far as making these characters true to life from the comic, which is one of the major criticisms of Batman v Superman, that Batman and Superman weren't really very much alike. Well, welcome to the Geekdom 101 official review for Captain America Civil War, the third Captain America movie, which also kind of doubles as the next Avengers movie, but you probably knew that going in. Now, what I'm going to do with this review, folks, is I'm going to go into non-spoiler territory to start with, and then later in the video I will go ahead and go into spoilers. I will warn you ahead of time before I go into the spoilers. So first and foremost, I just want to say, people have been saying this is the best comic book movie of all time. I don't know yet because I've only seen the film once, but I can certainly tell you that it is probably the best Marvel Cinematic Universe film that we've seen so far. That's the first thing I want to say. And the movie, Anthony and Joe Russo did such a great job of making this both a combination drama espionage film, but also having realistic kind of action mixed in with wacky, over-the-top comic book action. But it wasn't just a lighthearted Marvel film like Guardians of the Galaxy or like, the first Avengers was kind of very lighthearted. This was a very dark movie, especially in the second half. There was a lot of tragic moments in the film. It felt like a Shakespearean tragedy because, as you know, this is the somewhat of a breakup. I'm not going to spoil what happens, but in the film, obviously, and until later, that these characters fight and they build up to it. It's very subtle, and then we see more and more things happen and it starts to unravel. That's when you're watching the film, you're seeing the storytellers, Anthony and Joe Russo, peeling away at the layers till we finally get the what happened. Now, very important thing here I want to go into. First of all, if you are a fan of the Civil War comics, you should already know this. Obviously, the movie's called Captain America Civil War. This film is not a retelling of that story. First of all, to retell the Civil War Marvel story would take multiple films, but there are enough elements from the Civil War story that as a comic book fan, unless you're very, very jaded and you want a direct, perfect adaptation, which is never going to happen, there was enough elements and homages to it that you'll pick up on that very well. Also, if you're a fan of Spider-Man and Black Panther, I'm sure you've heard this already during the week, but Black Panther is one of the centerpieces of the film. Of course, the real centerpiece is Bucky. This is basically a story about the Winter Soldier and Cap. It's still a Captain America movie, with Avengers sprinkled on it. But, the interactions with all the characters, though, are really, really fascinating. The Vision, Scarlet Witch have their stuff. They don't get as much screen time as Cap and Bucky because it is their story. And Tony's, it's also his story as well. And you really find out how much is his story as the movie goes on. So again, if you're expecting it to be exactly like the Civil War comic, it's just not the case, but there's enough homages there to satisfy you. Another thing this movie did is also add weight and gravity to the events in Age of Ultron. It actually gave Age of Ultron more of a purpose, which I think is a very important thing, because I know a lot of people left that film thinking, okay, what was the point of this movie except for introducing, Scarlet Witch and the Vision and things like that. There was a lot of seeds planted there for this, and it all kind of paid off. So special effects wise, fantastic. I couldn't even tell it was CGI how well it was done. I mean, you could tell, but you really couldn't tell. It wasn't like bad CGI. Performance wise, of course, Robert Downey Jr. knocks it out of the park again. Very conflicted character. I think we saw more emotion out of Iron Man in this movie than any other Iron Man movie. Robert Downey Jr. just completely did it. Just a great job of playing it conflicted, hurt, in pain, but motivated Tony Stark. And you know how before the movie people were saying, oh, well, this film's, Team Cap or Team, Iron Man. It's very hard to pick a team, especially when the movie ends, because it really is like a Shakespearean fall from grace type story. Tom Holland as a very young Peter Parker. That's one thing I will tell you about Spider-Man in this movie. He is the youngest he's ever been portrayed on film. Okay, so if you're expecting the older Peter Parker from the 90s, which actually is my favorite, you're not going to get it here. You're going to get a young Peter Parker. But Tom Holland knocked it out of the park. And more importantly, the script. The script. The film was written by Henry Jackman, obviously supervised by Kevin Feige. Spider-Man is Spider-Man again. If you've read the comic, the classic Silver Age Spider-Man, you know how Spider-Man is. Spider-Man is Spider-Man again. And the people, I'm not going to spoil it, but the people making this movie knew that Spider-Man was going to be a big hit. He got the biggest ovation in the movie theater. Obviously, you know, Ant-Man's in this film, and there's a few surprises with that as well. Huge, you know, huge thing. Also, I was very happy to see William Hurt. Classic actor, one of my favorite actors from way back in the day. Kind of grew up with this guy. You might remember him from History of Violence. He was also in AI. He was in The Village. Of course, his big movie that I saw years ago, Altered States, that was the first kind of trippy sci-fi movie I saw ever, and he was in it. So just a great classic actor. Good to see him there. But everybody was fantastic in this film. Like, these guys all did so well. They all had their own motivations, but they all cared for each other. So just, again, I don't know if it's the best comic book movie I've ever seen. I can't say that because I need to really think about it and kind of watch it again and gather my thoughts. But it just did so much. They accomplished so much in 2 hours and 30 minutes. Like, I didn't think they were actually going to be able to tell this story in one film. And it didn't feel rushed at all. I think every character, even the ones that weren't the main characters, got enough screen time. And of course, if you've seen the trailer, you know the big fight, it goes on long enough that you're totally satisfied with it. You know, the big Civil War fight. It's long, and there's so many moments for all the characters that it's just, you know, incredible. The social commentary in this film, okay? The social commentary in this movie, one of the things they hammered home, which I really give credit to, because this is more than just a comic book movie. This is why I think it will be, like, remembered very fondly, is that there was so much social commentary about the casualties and the causality of war. You can sense it throughout the entire film, start to finish, that war causes these problems. War causes pain and suffering, and it's repeated over and over and over again, constantly throughout this film. It's an overarching theme, not just with the events that happen in Age of Ultron and the first Avengers, but also with the events that happen in this movie. It's almost like, again, like a tragedy that all these things happen. The world needs these heroes, and yet these heroes, because of something that's motivated by goodwill and motivated by justice, hurt people. You know what I mean? Because there's always going to be casualties in war. And so it really did double as like really a deep story. So that's it for my non-spoiler review. Go see this freaking movie. It's amazing. The best from the MCU, and I really hope that the Russo brothers stick around. Now, we're going to go into some spoilers, so if you have not seen the film, okay, go see it. Pause the video. Go see the movie, come back and finish the video, because I definitely want to get your thoughts down below. Those of you who have seen the film, do not comment spoilers until, let's say, Monday, all right? If you watch this video, leave your comments with your thoughts on the movie. I want to know what you thought about the movie, but try to not give away too much if that's okay with you guys. Or actually, even better, those of you who are watching this video who have not seen it, you know what? Stay away from the comment section. Just don't scroll down. Just thank you again and come back after you've seen the movie and we'll talk about the spoilers real quick. Okay, spoilers, all right? Tom Holland as Spider-Man, amazing. Spider-Man was Spider-Man. Aunt May was very young. This is the youngest that Aunt May and Spider-Man or Peter Parker have ever been, and he got just enough screen time that I was cool with it. Also, Chadwick Boseman, amazing. Like, once they introduced the King T'Chaka, I could never pronounce that. T'Chaka, I was like, oh shit, here he comes. And then they showed him, and I was marking out. The airport scene, right? The fucking Civil War, amazing. Just, I had heard about Giant Man because the toys had leaked that he becomes Giant Man in the movie. Scott Lang, loved it. Just, and he was so funny. He was only in the movie for a little bit, but he was so funny. The Baron Zemo story, I thought was really, really well done, because what we have here that Batman v Superman failed is actual fucking motivation. Lex Luthor's motivations in BVS changed about 6 times in the movie. In this film, when you got to the third act, when everything fell apart, and you're seeing the big climactic fight, right? You kind of somewhat understand, not agree with, but understand why Baron Zemo did what he did. Like, you know why he said, or Helmut Zemo was his name. I don't know if he was really Baron Zemo. It's Helmut Zemo anyways. And by the way, I forgot to mention that Aunt May was played by Marissa Tomei, which really surprised me. But anyways, back to Zemo. The fact that he actually was responsible for breaking up these superheroes. I love that. It's the same thing as BVS. It's a regular human being with no powers, even though Batman's also, he doesn't have any powers, but it meant more here. You know what I mean? It actually meant more here. Spider-Man, every scene Spider-Man was in was amazing. That kid, Tom Holland, has so much charisma. Just great freaking movie, yo. I kind of wanted to see more of Crossbones. He was in there. I don't even know where we go from here, but I like the fact that, Cap and Tony kind of somewhat made amends, but not really. There's going to be some tension there, but they're going to have to get together whenever they face a bigger threat, which is, Thanos. And recently, guys, the Russos announced they're going to be changing the Avengers movies. And one of the big the big scuttlebutt now that I've been reading on the web is that they're going to do Secret Wars first, and then Infinity War. I don't know if that's a good idea yet, but if they're going to use the Secret Wars to give Spidey his black costume, which is the correct way of doing it based on the comic, I'm cool with it. So we'll see. The next movie is going to be Doctor Strange, which is kind of not a reboot, but we're kind of hitting the reset button because everything's been building to this film, even more than Age of Ultron. Everything built to this movie, and now it's been broken apart, somewhat, because pretty much Tony's in charge of the Avengers now. They're still around, but, Cap, which is their war leader, is pretty much gone. I'm curious about where the story's going to go. Anyways, again, let me know your thoughts down below on this film. I had a great time watching it. What a rush. I'm going to go see it again very soon. Very, very soon. I'm not sure when, but I'm going to go see it again very, very soon. Just great movie. Everything you could ever want. And if you're a comic book fan, obviously you guys watching who are sticking around already know this. This movie captured the comic feel better than anything they've done before. It was a comic brung to life, and I'm so happy Spider-Man is where he belongs with everybody else. He is the poster boy for Marvel. He is the top guy in Marvel. So everything went by right as rain. Thanks, everybody, for checking out the video. And please feel free to subscribe if you haven't. I've got Geeked Up Movie Talk coming up every Monday where we talk about nerdy movies like this one. And, of course, your Star Wars and Dragon Ball content on this channel. Thanks again, and we'll catch you down the road.